Aloha, welcome to Fast, Healthy, and Ono Cooking's Locally Grown series, where we'll be focusing on locally grown produce that is inexpensive or easily grown. Learning how to cook and enjoy local foods could play a big part in supporting Hawaii's local food security. So we thank you for turning in for this series. Tonight we'll be learning how to make lemongrass chicken and a Vietnamese banh mi sandwich. We'll also be extending our program by 15 minutes so we can include a Q&A with special guests, Dr. Hamjad Hamad from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture. My name is Lonnie Taylor, and I'm an AARP Hawaii volunteer. I'll be your host tonight. On behalf of our sponsors, Kaunoa Senior Services on Maui, Uala Leaf Cafe at Windward Community College, and AARP Hawaii, welcome. For those of you who are new,
Lonnie, you need to unmute yourself.
but what we do for everyone. We hope with these series, you can learn some techniques that you can use to build or maintain a healthy lifestyle. Let's do a quick bit of housekeeping. This is a picture of what you should be seeing at the bottom of your Zoom screen on a PC and possibly the top of the screen on an iPad. Everybody is currently on mute. If you want to submit a question or a comment, please click on the bottom that says Q&A and type in your question. I will be monitoring the questions and making sure they get asked. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you may type your questions in the comments. We won't be using the raise hand command because questions will be submitted in the Q&A. The chat command isn't necessarily going to be needed unless you want to communicate a technical issue. Alice Swift, Dave DeWitt, and Char Saunders are standing by to help. We recommend that you select side-by-side view rather than gallery view for this presentation. Do this by clicking on the upper right part of your screen. Once you are in that view, you can change the size of the slides or of the speaker simply by clicking and dragging on the middle bar. Finally, we have added closed captioning to this presentation. For those who have difficulty hearing, you can turn this off on your end by clicking on the CC Live transcript button in the lower right side of your screen and clicking on Hide Subtitle. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Chef Daniel, who will be leading us through this cooking series. Take it away.
Aloha. Thank you, Lonnie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Hey, it all works. I'm always excited when it comes together. You never know till the last second. Thanks for the intro, and thanks everyone for joining us. This is second to the last in our series where we're talking about kind of like common local ingredients that are grown that you can, some at least, grow easily at home. Tonight is an example of that. Before we move into holiday themed comfort foods, which will take us through November and December. So tonight we're working with lemongrass. I went and picked some up today. I look forward to Dr. Ahmad's information that he'll be sharing with us about this. We use it quite a lot in the kitchen and a lot of dishes that we prepare here. And then tonight we're just doing a simple, really simple lemongrass chicken. And then I've added some vegetables to it. So if you got the recipe, it's sort of a standard for a marinade and the cooking of the chicken that can be used by itself and served with any type of vegetable you want. I'll show you what I'm doing with it tonight. And then also making a banh mi sandwich, which is extremely popular in Hawaii. And then I also am making a broth to make it like a dip, which is one of the trends that, well, I don't know if it's a trend. It might be a standard now, but it's a really, really nice way to serve that sandwich like a French dip, but you're using a pho broth, which we've made before in previous classes, and I'll talk about that when we get to the end. Then hopefully I'll get done in time for plenty of that extra information that we'll get on the details of lemongrass and some of maybe the health benefits and such. So a couple quick things on the front end. I've got the ingredients for the marinade, which I'll talk you through. But lemongrass, and I'm guessing most of us have seen it in the supermarket. It's either sold like this, or it can also be sold in the little plastic packs where it comes cut up into sticks about this size. I think this is the one. I've used it this month in a couple recipes because it's pretty common for what we make a lot of here. And if you're growing it at home, it looks exactly like these longer stalks, but it has it's almost like that California grass. It'll come up and then drop down. I don't have a really clear image to show you, but if you look it up online, it's really, really easy to spot when you see it. The other thing I would say is it's super easy to grow. So there's a couple benefits to it. And to me, that's like the most important one. I probably should have put it at the top, but I recommend, and we've grown it here in large, long bins, our composting bins, and this root balls just spread like crazy. So if you plant it just in the ground somewhere around your yard, you got to keep in mind that it's just going to continue to spread. And those roots are very dense, and they can tend to take over certain areas. But if you put it into a nice sized pot or planter, it'll contain it, and then you can control it a lot more easily. So that would be my recommendation for growing it. But it is a shrub-like herb, as I've written out here, and it's really known for its lemon aroma and flavor. So that primarily comes from the bulb, which I'll show you, which we can crush or do different things with to prepare it for the cooking process. But it's that aroma and flavor that we really like to impart into the dishes that we make. So it's native to tropical regions, mostly in Asia and subcontinent around South Pacific and Asia. It grows really, really well here in Hawaii, and it's almost carefree, which is another reason I like having it in the garden. And then the base bulb, as I mentioned, is the part that we will use primarily. This thick, almost like a bulb of garlic, where it's kind of like a bulb on the end, and that's the part that we want to utilize. It gets a little bit more woody and stemmy towards the top. These sections can be used in sauces or in soups or broths, where you just throw it in whole and let the flavor come out, and then you remove it. You'll see that sometimes in certain soup dishes as well. But it's really hard to cut it or grind it fine enough to where you want to eat it. If you're going to do that, like tonight, you want to use the bulb portion of the lemongrass stalk. And yeah, here's a simple photograph of those different ways that it can be prepared, and whether it's the sticks or the batons, they call them, whether it's sliced in large or slivers, thin rings, or if it's simply grated. Either one work, depending on the outcome of the particular dish that you're making. So we'll do a couple different approaches tonight. I think previously I have shown you a couple tools for grating the lemongrass. This is a microplane zester. You could use probably like a nutmeg grater, or anything that's really fine would work well. And then one that works best is like a classic ginger grater. And this is just super fine, where you would grate ginger almost to a paste, or wasabi, and it works really, really well for the lemongrass. So let me cut a piece off here really quick and show you. I've already cut some for the dish we're doing, but I'll prep one of these and show you that. So on the outside, you'll see that there's some loose portions of the leaves. It's almost like a green onion in a sense. And we remove the ones that are dry and brittle, and we'll get down to the bulb and the portion that is a little on the softer side and wet. You can feel it has a lot of give to it, where this is really, really woody. And I'm just going to cut that portion off. It's the white portion, or the bulk of it is the white portion. It starts to turn a light green, and then it'll turn the solid green towards the top, where it gets really woody. And then this is where you can come back, even if you trim the bottom off. It smells great already. Actually, this is used in a lot of air fresheners as well. So it's got that great aroma. So you can do either side and then just simply grate it. And as I grate it on this fine one that's designed for ginger or wasabi, you can probably see it just makes almost like a little fine paste. I don't know if that shows up for you in the camera, but it just grinds it to like a nice little paste. If you were to use the microplane, same sort of thing. I'll go over the bowl. We're going to make the marinade in. Because it's so fine and small, make sure you do it over a bowl or over a cutting board or something that you can scrape it off real easily. And that just makes it super, super fine. And this one's a lot quicker, slightly larger pieces, but so fragrant and so flavorful. It's delicious. The other things that you can do with it, as was shown in that picture, you can simply cut rings or slices. And if you do them as thin as you can, with the bulb at the base, they do tenderize a little bit in a soup, and they're not unpleasant to eat. If you get further up, you're not going to want to have these pieces floating around in your dish because they're a little too hard and they won't tenderize, and people might not like chewing on them. So that is what you would want to do with the base portion. Another popular technique, if you just want to get the flavor, and I think we use this in previous recipes, was to crush it. And I can use like the back of my knife handle to just give it a couple taps like that. And it really crushes it and opens it and keeps it all in one piece still. So I could throw this into a broth and get the flavor extracted from it. Works really, really well for that. So lots of different ways, lots of different uses, and it makes your kitchen smell so fragrant and citrusy. It's delicious. So really quick, and any questions you have, just go ahead and fire them my way. I'm going to just throw together this simple marinade and get the chicken going, Lonnie.
Sure. I have a question from Marilyn. Can fish sauce be substituted with wisteria sauce?
Yeah, with Worcestershire, yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be the same flavor, but if you don't like the fish sauce, and that's sort of a love-hate relationship, you can absolutely eliminate it. And a little bit of Worcestershire would be a good substitute. There's also an amino, like a vegan soys can work and things like that to give you that little bit of flavor, but it's not exactly the same. But that's actually a really, really good idea. So great, great comment. And then here I have that sauce. I've got the lemongrass, the Hawaiian chilies. I've got a little bit of curry. I like to put a pinch of curry in there. Don't go too heavy, but it just gives it that little distinctive, subtle sort of Olena flavor that we talked about last week. A little bit of sugar substitute. This could be honey. This could be anything to give a little bit of sweetness to the marinade of the chicken if you want, or it could be omitted. That's up to you. A little crushed garlic, teeny bit of olive oil, and then some lime juice. So all of these basically go together, and I'm going to just keep that lemongrass that we grated in the bowl. So I'll just mix these together, and happy to answer another question if you have one.
No questions yet.
Great. So I had put, if you got the recipe for this, there are a number of different ways that you can mix the dressing or the marinade. Actually, this serves as a dressing, and we've used something very similar to this in I think the beef salad that we did, the Thai beef salad a number of months ago. And tonight I've just chosen to whisk it. So I put it together in a bowl, give it a stir. Ideally, I would let this set, 4 or 5 minutes or so to get those oils from the chilies out and the fragrance from the lemon and all of that. But we only have 30 minutes. So I'm going to just go ahead and pour it over the chicken. And the chicken that I'm using tonight this is a thigh. So for this dish, because I'm using it for a sandwich and for a sauteed item that might set a little bit longer, you're always a little bit safer when you're using thigh in terms of making sure that it doesn't turn out dry. Breasts, obviously leaner, but you have to be really tricky, and you always want to kind of serve that right away, because if you let breast sit after it's been cooked, it gets dry, and we've all experienced that. So the alternative to just simply whisking these together would be to use a blender to create an emulsion and really grind everything up. And that would grind up your lemongrass, your garlic, your chilies. It would make it a nice, smooth and even dressing, which would be perfectly fine as well. Totally up to you. I have a little food processor out here. Something like this would work also if you have one at home. It works great for blending small quantities of dressing, even chopping like the garlic and everything. This would work well. You could throw the items in there whole with the exception of the lemongrass and then just pulse it and it would create the chopping while it made the dressing. So there's a lot of options there. If you don't have a food processor at home and you're doing a lot of chopping, these can really save you a lot of time and they don't cost very much at all.
Judy wants to know, can you use lemon instead of lime?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I had half and half today. Great question, Judy. Anything to give you that, the acidity, and then you've got the lemon juice, or excuse me, the lemon flavor from the lemongrass. So the lime's a nice contrast, but absolutely anything, even grapefruit would work if it's a little bit acidic. If it's not acidic enough, you want to add a little hint of vinegar, you could do that. So you could even use orange juice to get that flavor, and then a little bit of vinegar to get the acidity would take it to the next level. So this one we want to set marinade for, usually I go for about at least 20 minutes. And tonight we don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna actually do the vegetables while this sits. I'll give it maybe 5 minutes or so. And then what we're gonna do is strain that out and then reserve the marinade for deglazing the chicken when it's finished. But in the meantime, I can heat up the pan and I'm going to cook the vegetables that I wanted to add to this. So as I said, the recipe that I sent out just had the basic ginger chicken. So the thought there was that you would be able to create your own dish from that. And then of course we can take the chicken that we're making here straight by itself and use it for the banh mi sandwich. But to make it a complete meal, we want traditionally carbohydrate, and I have a nice multi-grain rice, which we haven't had in a while, but I want to use that this evening, and then some vegetables. So what I have tonight is just a medley of peppers, yellow, orange, and green. I have some green papaya left that I cut up into small dices. I want to utilize that, and then I've got just some red onion. So that mixed with the chicken is going to be really, really nice. And I just need a teeny bit of oil. This is some avocado oil. And I'm putting the vegetables in.
Luena said you could probably even use kalamasu.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's I love it when you guys ask about different substitutions, because that's really honestly one of our primary goals is to get folks to, hey, I don't have lime, but I have lemon, or I have a grapefruit, or I have calamante, or I have, this special vinegar that someone gave me for the holidays, and maybe it's a tarragon vinegar or something. So yeah, absolutely. Think about it in terms of like acidity. Are you adding a sweetener? Are you adding an acid? Are you adding something that's salty? So there's lots of different things that you can utilize to substitute, and try to work with the things that you have at home in your refrigerator or in your pantry. So you're not doing a lot of shopping. As you know, products have gone up so much in the last few weeks, or actually a few months even. So we want to try to limit the costs of the items that we prepare as well.
So
here-
Paula's asking,
Go ahead.
can you use extra firm tofu in place of chicken?
Yes, you could, absolutely. Just be really careful when you're cooking it. Generally, and we've used tofu quite a lot, what I recommend is to dry it first and cut it in half and then dry it. And then I cut the pieces, or the pieces that are cut, I'll bake them at a high temperature of like 450 degrees, lightly seasoned and lightly sprayed with some form of cooking spray. And then that adds some texture to it in advance of going into the pan. It helps it hold together, because if you throw it in a pan and do sauteing, it should hold together. You just have to be careful. A lot of times if you go too long, it can start to fall apart, but use extra firm. And then you have the option of roasting it to give it a little bit of caramelization and flavor. and then move to your saute and you should be fine. So this is a nice fresh medley of vegetables. I don't need to cook it that long because all of these particular vegetables can actually be eaten raw. So I don't have to like cook them all the way. I can eat them raw like in a salad, but since I'm putting them with the chicken, I want to add a little bit of caramelization, warm them up throughout, and tenderize and soften them up just a little bit. So another minute or so and these will be ready. So while that's wrapping up, I can go ahead and strain my chicken.
Okay, so Ingrid wants to know why not marinate more than 2 hours?
Because you have all that acidity in there from the lime juice, and you don't want chicken ceviche. Anytime you have like acid that's coming into contact with raw proteins like chicken or fish, beef, anything like that, it's gonna cook the outside of that meat. So if you like ceviche, for example, and you eat that, that's not cooked at all. The only cooking that takes place in that particular dish is when you mix the fish with the lime juice or the lemon juice, and the acid from that product cooks the protein itself. So if you've ever gotten lemon juice in a cut or something, then you'll know what I'm talking about. It goes to work kind of cooking the protein. So any longer than 2 hours, you could make the chicken a little bit dry. It's not going to ruin it. It's not going to make it inedible. It's not going to make it unusable, but it won't be ideal for flavor. So I wouldn't recommend this one like as an overnight type of marinade. That's a great question. So I've got that there and that's dripping off, and I'm going to reserve this because I want this sauce for a little bit later. And then I've got my vegetables are all done. And keeping those fresh and nice, I don't even have to really season them right now because they'll get blended with the chicken and that'll turn out fine. So there's an advantage here to those nonstick pans. A tiny bit of oil, of course it doesn't stick while you're cooking it. You can pour it off and then you don't even have to wipe it out. You can move right into cooking the chicken. So a teeny bit more oil, and do be careful because you are coming out of a wet marinade. So the potential for splatter with oil in a hot pan is there. So you just always have to put your product in there very carefully. And then you do always want to make sure your pan's nice and hot before your chicken goes in. And you don't want it in a mound. So you'll notice I'll slide this over a touch. I'm spreading it out as much as I can to separate each of these pieces. I can smell the garlic and the lemongrass and the chilies. And then of course the protein or the chicken, the protein in this case, as it cooks, it shrinks and tightens up. So if they're clustered together a little bit closely as they cook, they're going to pull themselves inward, and it'll create a little bit more space in between. So we're going to let that go for a minute, and then I'll try to flip them. I can try to flip actually each piece by itself, or I can do a saute and dance them around in the pan. I'll just see how it looks and what works best. So what we have here is sort of a dry heat, but the wetness of the moisture from that marinade creates a little bit of a sauce in the bottom, if you can sort of see that. And that's reducing, which means the flavors will be concentrating and become really nice and almost like a glaze when we're done. All right. Okay, so we'll save this, set it aside. Next thing I want to do is just talk really quick about this broth that we're going to use for the banh mi sandwich. And what I did here, I just took some water. I had one little piece of chicken that I put inside. You could use bouillon cubes as well. I sliced a couple pieces of onion. And then from our previous class, if you watched when we did Vietnamese pho, we used these seasoning packets that come with all of the herbs and spice blends for a traditional pho broth, all right there in the packet. So I just let that sit on the stove, very, very low heat for, it's been a couple hours and it's just fragrant. It's a really nice pho broth, just like you'd get if you're going to a traditional Vietnamese restaurant. All right, so now I can flip this a little bit. And you can see most of that liquid is gone. I want to make sure, or try to make sure, that all of these pieces are turned over so that the raw side is down and now cooking thoroughly. The small pieces won't take long, but you want to not overcook them, but certainly you want to not undercook them anytime you're dealing with chicken. So this will be our broth. And if you go back to the recipes, or if you have questions, you can email me for the pho broth. It takes that sandwich to the next level for me, having that broth available to dip the sandwich and then eat it like that. This is great.
Ellen and Linda and Patricia, they want to know what's in the seasoning packet you mentioned and where do you get it from?
Yeah, we picked it up in Chinatown. I grabbed the last one. I'll try to grab the box right at the end. I didn't bring it out. It's called Pho, P-H-O, and it might be in my office. You can check. And it's just a seasoning pack that has the 5 spice, the star anise, all of the traditional, the cardamom, all of the herbs that go into a traditional pho broth. It's in like a little tea pack, and you just drop it in. It comes 5 to a pack. It's only a couple dollars. Outstanding product to make cooking things like that at home really, really simple. So Alice went to run and try to, grab the box so we can show you that. Thank you. And then here, this is close to being done. It's right here. Oh boy. I'll see if you guys can get a picture of that or get an image of that. There's a couple shops in Chinatown that carry it, or you can look online. And maybe Alice can put something in the chat. All right, so the chicken's done. And that would be ready to go. I just need to put a little bit of rice on this plate. And I could toss the vegetables back in with the chicken, which normally I would do, but today, since I'm saving some straight chicken for the sandwich, I'm going to just leave the vegetables on the plate. I'll pack the rice right on top. And then I can come back, turn off my chicken because it's ready. It smells great. You can see the chilies in there. So that can be, if you don't like it spicy, you can eliminate that and use green onions or something like that as well. And then here, I'm just gonna put some of the chicken around. I have enough broth here. I was gonna deglaze it with the rest of the marinade, but we have so much broth in there that I think I'm gonna just save that juice. But anyways, we got that dish finished. I just wanted to kind of walk you through the banh mi sandwich. And I just have a nice piece of French bread. I picked up a baguette. Yeah, you probably don't want to make that yourself. If you don't like the really hard, crispy, crunchy bread that usually is what's served with banh mi sandwich, you can use any kind of soft bread as well. Just toast it. It makes it a little bit nicer if it's crispy. So I've got a little bit of the low-fat mayo on here, and that could be omitted. You don't have to have that, especially if you're doing the dip like we do tonight. And then we've got the chicken. And what I did for the vegetables, sort of the traditional style, we've got cucumbers, which I just cut on a bias. I cut it lengthwise and then cut it on a bias. I like a nice long piece of cucumber here. And again, you could dice these up smaller. You could do anything you want, any style that you like that makes it convenient. You could even make like a chicken salad by chopping up the chicken and the other ingredients and mixing it together. And then that way it stays together in the sandwich. I pickled a little bit of the daikon and the carrot. And this is similar to the pickling brine that we did in a previous class. But I was using the rice vinegar. So if you buy the seasoned rice vinegar, you can really almost use that straight away to brine your vegetables. This is just some carrot that I cut and a little bit of daikon, traditional. Even green papaya would work good for this. It's just not the traditional approach to it. Some folks like it hot, so a couple slices of the jalapeno. And traditionally, some nice cilantro. And this is one of my favorite herbs that we use because cilantro, it's like a leafy, it's almost like a salad. I can just eat it straight. And the stems are nice and tender, and they're also flavorful, so we don't have to like pick all of the leaves off. There's nothing wrong with serving a nice full piece of cilantro with the stem on it. It will hold, it tastes good, it's not woody, and there's no point in throwing it away.
What type of, Marilyn wants to know what type of daikon. Some are bitter.
Yeah, that's true. I just got the regular Japanese style. And what I find is that once you pickle them, it takes that bitterness away. So no matter what flavor you get, once you get the brine inside, because there's a little sweetness to that rice vinegar, it rounds that out really well. So what I did earlier for this was just brought that brine to a boil and poured it over my diced daikon. And actually, I think you can buy that now at the farmers markets and at the stores already done in small packages. But it's super simple to make. If you just get rice wine vinegar, the seasoned rice wine vinegar, bring it to a boil and pour it over diced daikon, it'll eliminate even that sort of earthy flavor that you'll get from it. And it'll impart that sweetness, that little bit of sourness, and it makes it a really great contrast when you're having a sandwich like this.
I have a viewer,
Yep, go ahead.
I have a viewer that's wanting to know the rice that you have in the middle of your dish for the lemongrass chicken. What kind of rice is that?
This is an 8-grain sprouted rice that we pick up. What's the store you go to, baby? Safeway carries it now. If you go to, yeah, Safeway at least has it on the top shelf, but it's the store down by Don Quixote, that store that you go to. I have the packet. I can bring it out. I'll put it on the table and show everybody. But it's a sprouted grain, 8-grain rice. And there's lots of different brands out there. But the great thing about it is it has black rice, brown rice, white rice. It's a really good mix of multiple grains, some of which are sprouted, which is better for you on the glycemic index and things like that. So great question. And we haven't used that in a while, or I would have probably brought the packet out this evening to show you guys.
I do have a viewer, and can you buy prepared lemongrass and where from?
Great question. For fresh prepared lemongrass, I've not seen it like sliced or ground yet. You can buy it in the sticks like this, but what I found is that more often than not, the really nice bold portion that you're looking for is missing. They tend to just cut it from here and probably use this in some other product. And then you're just getting the, it's still usable, but it's not the ideal portion. But what they do also have, and you can pick it up in Chinatown, is lemongrass powder. So you can buy, I can't remember what the cost of this container is, but it's dehydrated, finely ground lemongrass. So this is probably more than you would use in a lifetime at home, but it's nice to know that it's available. They may also make a smaller container. We just get the larger one for use in our spice blends here. So this is one of the ingredients that we put in a lot of our spice blends. So it's very handy. And if you don't want to go through the process of getting the fresh lemongrass, which was, I think I paid about $4, $3.50 for that bunch. Not really, really expensive, but if you're buying 4 or 5 stalks, you might not have a use for that many. So it is also used in beverages, so you can flavor your teas with it. We used to make like a watermelon sake beverage that when I taught at Kapiolani Community College's culinary program, and we cut these off about here. It was a chilled drink that was shaken and poured into a small glass, and then on the top we did a little malasada that was fried and rolled in ginger powder. and then skewered on top. But that's not for fast, healthy, and Ono cooking. It wouldn't qualify, but it is used in a lot of other things. So you could make a vinegar with it if you had the extra. Just drop it into a nice bottle of white vinegar, and it'll flavor that vinegar into a lemongrass vinegar.
Can lemongrass paste be used too? That's from Ellen.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not bought that. I'm assuming that Alan's seen that around. If there is a paste, it's probably something that's like the powder that's just been hydrated. So you could make a paste out of this one actually as well. But if they sell it fresh in the store and it's grated into a paste, absolutely, that would work great.
Okay, Richie, he said, or she said, you can get prepared lemongrass paste in the produce section of Times and Safeway, comes in a tube. Same with ginger and garlic made by Gourmet Gardens.
Okay, so it's in those little packs and tube, wasabi and lemongrass and garlic and okay, awesome. So that would save you a little bit of time. It's probably got some preservatives in it, but that's not a problem. It'll last longer in your refrigerator, and then you can utilize it in a lot of different dishes. So thank you for sharing that. And this was from Times today. So they are carrying the fresh one more often than not. But as I said, try to grow this at home if you're a gardener and you want to have something that grows really well and is easy to take care of and propagates itself very rapidly. This is a winner for the pot gardener.
Lori has a question. How much powder? So I'm assuming it's the lemongrass powder would you use?
Oh, in substitution on this particular dish, I would
Yes.
say probably about a half a teaspoon of this in the place of the fresh for this particular recipe. So again, it's up to you how much flavor you like. And the good thing about that marinade, if you're making that or using the powder in that recipe, you can taste it. So you can mix all those ingredients together. You can taste it. Oh, I need a little more lemongrass powder, or I need a little more lime juice, or I need a little more sugar substitute, whatever it is. You can make those adjustments to the flavor of that marinade before you drop your chicken in. So I would start with like a teaspoon and then see where that takes you.
I have a couple questions regarding how do you select lemongrass?
Yeah, you just want it to be firm. Like any of these bulbs, you can see, I guess, here's an example of, this is like a double-headed one. But like celery or any stock vegetable, it'll start to dry out and it'll start to brown on the outside. So normally, as I said earlier, I'd peel that outer layer off. But if you remove that layer and you just continually have dried out layers, then it's older. But you'll see it start to turn brown. This is a nice green all the way from the base to the tip, nice and fresh. You can feel the moisture. It gives a little bit when you pinch it. It's not shrunken in and dehydrated, sort of like ginger. When we see ginger at the store, and sometimes it's really fresh and it looks like it's ready to explode, and other times it's all shriveled up and dehydrated. Same sort of approach to checking for freshness.
Can it be grated and frozen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, it can be grated and frozen. It can be, you can create that paste and then just put it into a small Tupperware and put it in the freezer. That would work great. I don't know if they make tubes that you could put it in, but if they did, that would be handy as well. But absolutely, this handles really well in the freezer.
Karen just wanted to find out, how long do you need to cook the marinade for it to be safe to consume?
Yeah, if you're doing a marinade with chicken or something like that, and then you're adding it back to a dish, or even if you just want to save it, a lot of times in the kitchen, we do large batches and we don't want to dump a gallon of marinade down the drain. So what we do is we bring it to a boil. So chicken or salmonella or any of the things that you need to worry about in terms of food hazards when dealing with chicken are taken care of at temperatures over 165 degrees. So if you bring it to a boil, which would be 212 degrees, you're guaranteed to have killed anything that is in that liquid that would be a potentially hazardous food. So what you may see when you do that, and I don't know if some folks do that at home, when you bring those things to a boil, you get a little foam that'll form on the top. We just skim that off. We throw that away, and then we have the gallon of either teriyaki marinade or whatever. And more often than not, we turn that into a sauce by thickening it with a cornstarch slurry and using it with that same dish or a dish that's similar. So yeah, we always try to extend the products that we're creating. We don't want to throw them away, but that's a really good question. You wouldn't want to use it as a salad dressing straight when you have chicken juice in it. You always want to make sure you bring it to a boil and remove the foam and kill any salmonella or anything that might be inside.
Okay, we thank you, Chef Dan.
Thank you, and I apologize for I don't know why our internet went out, but it's good to know our Wi-Fi works. Actually, we used to do it strictly on Wi-Fi, and we never really had a problem. And then we went to the landline, it's faster, and we've had a couple issues, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Now I can have my dinner. No.
Okay.
You want me to stop share?
Now it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest, Dr. Amjad Ahmad from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture. Dr. Ahmad will be talking to us about where and how lemongrass grows. Also, if there's any questions about Kalo and Olena grows and when and how to harvest it and where to purchase it. Dr. Ahmad.
Aloha, everybody.
There you are.
And here we are, share. I'm gonna go to full screen. Sweet. Aloha, everybody. Good evening. Sorry about last week. I wasn't feeling good. I thought just to take a couple hours rest, and it extended to longer period, and I missed the meeting. I'm sorry about that. We're going to talk a little bit about lemongrass, and there was so many points mentioned by Chef Dan that I want to just kind of follow up on, including, for example, when he was talking about grading that soft portion of the lemongrass, and then kind of smashing the left, which is kind of like the lower base of it, because it's more fibrous and cannot be like chewed on. I would say take that soft portion of it, and then as long as you have portion of the stem, which I'm going to show a little bit in the other slide, as long as it have some of that stem, I will put it in a small cup of water, let it root, and then after that I would plant it, and it's going to have I'm going to have my own plant over time. That's one. The other portion is also when Chef Dan was talking about, if you buy them pre-prepared, that they're going to give you those small pieces of the stem, but not the soft portion. I believe they keep the soft portion again, the lower portion again, to replant as a propagation materials rather than, and they give you only the upper portion because it's going to regenerate over time. So with that, even if you have those small portions that they are usually fibrous and dry and stuff, if you want to cook with it, there are two options. One of them is I would boil it, put it in water, boil a small amount of water, boil it, and then I'm going to use the water because it has already the flavor from the lemongrass, and use it, for example, for marination and stuff like this. Also, if you buy the whole thing and you are just focusing on the soft portion, don't throw away any of that lemongrass, because even the leaves, they have the flavor and they have, so you can technically just boil them a bit extra with water, and then you can add ginger and honey, and you are going to have a very good drink to enjoy, hot or cold. No waste with lemongrass at all. You can use all the portions of it, and also you can regenerate by keeping that base as long as it have portion of the stem, which again I'm going to show a little bit in the other slide, and you can root it and then you plant it, and you're going to have your own plant to continue always harvesting over time. Those my slide here is showing again, Chef Dan was mentioning at the beginning about how you see the plant in the field. That's usually how it is in the field. And if you leave it over time, some of the older stem, they're going to start dying, and then it also can expand over time. So the best thing to do is just you keep taking it from the outer portions or the older stems, and it's going to continue actually growing as long as there is no disease or something else will lead to the plant dying. Otherwise, it will just continue. It's a really good plant. Some people also put it and they just let it go as a short windbreakers, or kind of like lines in between different crops and stuff like this. It's because it's hardy, and it's a really good plant. It grows well and it has this very nice flavor and taste if you cook with it. Also, now this is in the ground. You can technically, if you don't have a plowable land, you don't want to use your front or backyard, you can just have it in pots. The only I would say setback is that usually when you have it in pots, you're going to limit the condition of the growth. So you want to make sure you fertilize it well, and also you want to make sure the pot is a good size to make sure it grows nicely. And don't, you see here what happened, because the picture came from a nursery. That's how they sell it. And you see the plants are thin and tall because they are competing on the light. They kept them close to each other. And when the plants next to each other, they all compete for the light. So they go up, give it its space, good sunlight. It will grow really nicely, almost as in the ground here. Again, fertilize it well. And adding compost and stuff is good, but it's not fertilizer. So you want to add fertilizer with high amount of nutrient content in it. As far as the propagation goes, rooted lemongrass plant is easier to plant. Like you see here in this picture, rooted stem is very easy to grow back again. For example, this one here in this picture, I can split this into about, I would say, 4 plants. This one, you have, this is separate, this one is separate, this one is separate, and this one is separate. And what you want to go with, especially at the beginning when you buy it, if you are planning to plant, what I would do, I would immediately take the outer leaves and use them for cooking, boil it, prepare some water and stuff. And then the remaining small portion, as long as it has little bit roots or it has the pieces of stem, this portion, as long as it has it, you will be able to dip it in a little bit water. It's going to root over time, and then you can plant it and you're going to have your own plant. Don't worry about the upper portion. You can actually cut it. It's okay. As long as there is roots and a little bit of the stem, it will regrow back again. So this portion, you don't worry about it. You can just cut it, again, boil it for drinks and stuff, or you can boil it and take the water to cook with it. Sorry about that. Here, this one, you can see the stem is actually here. This is the base. You see this one? This is the base. So what you want to do also, you take the outer leaves, and then until you have kind of small amount of the stem, which is going to be down here, also you can root it and replant it again. This picture here, this been cut deep. What I mean by that is they left all this, the kind of the base, the bulb, they left it maybe for propagation or something like that. Or what they did, sometime what they do, I go back here, what they do is they cut close to the ground. They take everything up because they know it will push up again. After they irrigate and fertilize, it will push back again. And that's what you end up with. Usually, if it is this way, if you get the lemongrass this way, you cannot root it. because the portion of the stem that has the cells to regenerate, it's already been cut. So with if it is this way, you will not be able to. So you can use the whole thing for cooking, boiling with water and drinks and stuff. If you have this, the base bulb, you have it this way, you have it this way, definitely you will be able to regrow. And again, what's good about lemongrass, nothing goes to waste. The entire plant has the fragrance and has the compounds that we look for, which is the smell kind of lemon and also nice flavor that adds into it. And the whole plant has it. It's just certain portions are more fibrous, more dry than the other portion. Again, just boil it and use that water in cooking and stuff like this. That's what I have actually for the presentation. I didn't know really, and I thought to focus more on the questions.
Sure, not a problem. I do have a couple of questions for you, Dr.
course.
Ahmad. Okay, does the peeled, wait a minute. What type of fertilizer do for the lemongrass? What type of fertilizer?
You can go with any type of fertilizer as long as you have good amount of nutrient. What I mean by good amount of nutrient, you have 5% nitrogen, for example, and more. It can be 5%, it can be 10%. Like for a good example, the 16, 20, the one says 16, 16, 16, 20, 20, 20. This kind of good. Miracle Grow, that's also a good one. What you want to do usually with the plants like this, because they last for very long, but they don't grow very fast in general. What you want to do, you want to add a small amount of fertilizer, but more often. This way, the plant will be able to uptake and benefit from all the amount of fertilizer instead of losing it. But any kind, blood meal, feather meal, those are the organic types. Those also will go well.
Okay, Athena, she says, my lemongrass started having a white powdery substance on them. What was that, and how do you prevent this?
Most likely it's powdery mildew. Most likely it's powdery mildew. I need to see pictures, but most likely it's powdery mildew. It's a common disease that happens, especially because we get into dry and wet times over the year. You can get that issue, and also because the lemongrass is a very dense usually plant. It holds lots of moisture in between, and that helps most of the diseases to thrive, because most of them, they thrive on moisture. What you want to do is at home, you want to go with neem oil, you want to go with the soap and water, but you want to alternate with a bit like different parts of different products. This way, the disease will not build resistance. So you want to find like in the, for example, Home Depot or Walmart or Lowe's or whatever, the home garden section, you're going to find products, neem oil, soap and oil, soap and water, stuff like this. For example, the Downy, the dish soap with water, you alternate with, like, for example, every week, and then you alternate with neem oil. So you're going to find a couple of products in the home garden section, and you will be able to have that to deal with. Again, every week, until you get that powdery mildew under control.
There's a question from Patricia, and are there healthy benefits of lemongrass?
I believe yes. I am not sure what is the compound exactly, but I have myself, when I have sore throats, it eases the issues with it. It helps me. It's kind of, it pushes it pushes the immune system, help us to defend our body with against whatever bacteria or whatever is going on. So yes, I believe there is health benefits. I like it. I usually drink it actually more often. I just boil it, add some ginger and a little bit of lime or lemon juice with honey. Perfect. It's a beautiful drink, hot or cold. It's awesome. I love it.
There is a question, and this is from Linda, and she's wanting to find out about the kalo. She wanted to know, the peeled kalo causes irritation to the skin. Do the raw leaves cause irritation to these, itchiness to the skin.
They do, especially if you are harvesting from a thick field. You are gonna go. So usually when I go to harvest taro, I would have a long sleeve. Even if I can, I will have gloves as well. Yes, there is those chemicals, irritants. It's a defense. Think about it. It's a natural defense mechanism. The plant is not trying to harm us. The plant is defending itself from pests and such, the harsh environment around it. So it builds this kind of defense mechanisms inside it. So when I go to taro field, I will have a long sleeve. I will have some gloves on me, because yeah, you can get even like the skin scratched sometimes. It just depends on the variety.
Okay, there was one question from Margaret. How many hours of full sun is ideal for lemongrass?
I would say full.
Okay.
I would say full, but it doesn't mean full day. Like more than 50% shade, better. Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time and we
Sorry,
want to.
I mean more than 50% shade. What I mean by that is less. Sorry, it's the opposite. So
Okay.
what I mean by that is up to 50% shade is okay, but it's better actually full sun. That's what I meant. I was like, what did I say?
Well, we have run out of time and we want to thank Chef Swift and also Dr. Maud.
I'm
And
pausing with sweet potato. If about my picture, the question, I am pausing with sweet potato. This is a trial on Maui, different varieties of sweet potato. It was focusing on the weevil issues in sweet potato.
Oh, okay.
I believe that was the question about it, right?
Right. Well, we
Yes,
have run out of time.
sorry,
and
absolutely.
we-
Yes, you can cut the leaves of taro and it will continue push new leaves. Even sometime from time to time, you are going to have some issues with what's called the blight. The blight in taro is very common here in Hawaii, especially in areas with high moisture, like Waimanalo, for example. What you want to do, you chop those leaves, the one that they get the blight, so you reduce the infection, but don't worry about it. Fertilize it after, it will push more leaves. Yes.
Okay, we've run out of time. So thanks much to Chef Swift, Dr. Ahmad, and thanks to those of you watching from home. We hope you'll join us next week for kabuchi pumpkin pie and Japanese style simmered kabucha. Have a good evening. Aloha, ahui ho.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you.